So, what happens when a war isn't just fought on a battlefield anymore, but in a factory? We're going to break down what's being called Iran's supply chain war, and it's a whole new strategy that goes after a nation's ability to even defend itself.
Okay, so picture this. It's March 16th. A wave of missiles launches from Iran, but the target, well, it wasn't what anyone expected. We're not talking about a military base or some command and control center.
No, the target was the factory. Iran pointed its weapons not at soldiers, but at the place where Israel's military power is born. I mean, this was way more than just another strike. This was a signal, a huge shift in strategy. So why is this such a big deal? Well, it's because this is a whole new kind of war. See, Iran isn't just trying to punch through Israel's defenses anymore. It's trying to take apart the entire system that builds and fixes those defenses in the first place.
The missiles hit two very specific companies, Rafael Advanced Defense Systems and Israel Aerospace Industries, or IAI. And these two are not interchangeable. They each have a super critical job. Rafael, they're the ones who make the famous Iron Dome and David's Sling. And IAI, they build the really high-altitude stuff, the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3, which are designed to hit ballistic missiles way up in space before they can even start coming down. So you see, these two companies aren't just a couple of contractors. They're literally the backbone of Israeli defense. Hitting them, it's like going after the entire assembly line for both Israel's shield and its sword. And here's the kicker. This attack, it came at the absolute worst possible time. It hit a system that was already stretched to its breaking point. You could say the supply chain crisis was a pre-existing condition. Get this, just 2 days before those factories were hit, a report drops, and it's quoting U.S. officials saying that Israel was already running critically low on these very interceptors. Their stockpiles were already dangerously low after a really intense 12-day conflict just last year.
So the response, as you can imagine, was fast and frankly pretty desperate. The Israeli government pushed through an emergency cash transfer to the defense ministry, and we're talking a staggering amount, $826 million. The line item, urgent and essential defense procurement. And if you want a perfect picture of the quiet panic going on behind the scenes, look no further. This vote didn't happen in some formal meeting. Nope, it was done by phone, late at night. That's how bad the situation was.
So the big question is, what kind of weapon did they use for this attack? Because the answer to that changes, well, it changes everything. We're talking about Iran's Fattah 2 missile, and let me tell you, they believe this thing is an absolute game changer. So what's the big deal? Well, unlike a normal ballistic missile that just flies in a predictable arc, the Fattah 2 is different. It's carrying what's called a hypersonic glide vehicle. Think of it like a warhead that can steer itself at insane speeds, kind of skipping along the edge of the atmosphere and changing course on the fly. That makes its path almost impossible to predict, and if you can't predict it, you can't intercept it.
And this is the truly crucial part. Months before this attack even happened, who comes out and says something? The vice president of Rafael, the guy whose company builds the interceptors. He went on record saying that hypersonic missiles represent a new era and that the old way of defending against missiles no longer works against them. I mean, think about that. The man building the shield just admitted it has a giant hole in it. But this isn't just about technology. It's also about money. It's an economic fight. Iran is playing the long game here, a strategy of attrition. It's a really lopsided battle of the checkbooks.
And the numbers here are just stark. Look at this. A single Iranian Shahed drone. It costs maybe $30,000. But the PAC-3 interceptor that's used to shoot it down, that can run you about $4 million. Just from a dollars and cents perspective, if you can force your enemy to spend millions to stop something that cost you thousands, you're already winning.
And this isn't just about throwing cheap drones at an expensive problem. This economic pressure is part of a very clear step-by-step strategy. It's not random. Step 1, take out the big, long-range early warning radars, the eyes that see threats coming from hundreds of miles away. Step 2, get rid of the closer, theater-level radars that actually guide the interceptors to their target. And only then, once the whole system is effectively blind, do you go in and overwhelm the missile launchers. It's a very deliberate plan to take the defenses apart piece by piece from the outside in.
Okay, so let's put it all together. You've got supply shortages, you've got these advanced new weapons, and you've got this constant economic drain. What does that actually look like in the real world?
Well, it leads to something military analysts call the degradation curve.
Let's just look at the numbers from that 12-day war last year. On the very first day, Israel's interception rate was fantastic. Only about 8% of missiles got through. But fast forward to day 12, after nonstop attacks, and that number jumps to 25% penetration. 1 out of every 4 got through. That's the degradation curve in action, and it's a steep one. As you use up your interceptors and your people get exhausted, the shield just gets more and more holes. And it's worth noting, the current conflict, it's already well past day 17.
And that all leads us to the final, really critical question. If the very factories that build the shield are themselves being targeted, if supplies are already critically low, and if the weapon coming at you is one that your own engineers admit they can't reliably stop, well, how long can that shield possibly hold?